Welcome along, explorer. It's time. It's time to search through the solar system and discover some of those science secrets that you might have missed. My name's Dan. Let's get going with a brand new Fun Kids Science Weekly. This week, we're on the hunt for the most dangerous food in the world.
So, one of my favourite deadly foods is the pufferfish. This is a popular dish in Japan. It's called fugu, and it's so dangerous that the chefs have to have a license to prepare it. But if you get the dose wrong, you can actually die. And there's about 50 people die each year in Japan from eating this delicacy.
Also, our mission to discover the greatest science around takes us behind the scenes at a big cat sanctuary.
We are a family charity, so we run two wildlife parks. So one is the Big Cat Sanctuary, which is in Kent, which pretty much says what it does on the tin, really. We rescue big cats from poor conditions. So, for example, we've just rescued 5 lions, African lions, from the war in Ukraine.
And for Dangerous Dan, we'll learn about one of the most deadly beasts in South America. It's all on the way in a brand new Fun Kids Science Weekly. Let's start with your science in the news. Artificial intelligence will soon use energy that powers the sun to power the world. That's according to the US Energy Secretary, Chris Wright, who says we don't need to be worried about AI warming the planet because soon it'll help us unlock the mystery of nuclear fusion. Now, nuclear fusion is how energy is created on the sun. It's when 2 atoms join together to make something brand new. And Wright says AI could help us finally understand how to use it. And if we use nuclear fusion, then it will cut down on planet warming emissions. Well, that sounds like a good thing, but it sounds like a big promise, doesn't it? I think this is a good idea, and when AI does use a lot of energy which heats up the world, if it could harness nuclear fusion, that'd be brilliant, but I'm not expecting to see anything happening with this just yet. Also, a tropical sea slug found in UK waters for the first time could be evidence that warming oceans mean marine wildlife is changing. Spirilla neapolitana is normally found in the Caribbean, but it was discovered off the south coast of Cornwall, at the bottom of the UK recently. It's a 10mm long creature. It's often called a hair curler slug because it spins, it curls round. Experts say it being found much further north than its usual habitat is a sign that oceans around the UK are getting warmer and attracting more exotic creatures that wouldn't normally be there. Well, that's fun for beasts that we can see, but it's not a good sign because it's changing the ecosystem of what's happening under the ocean. And our final story this week, experts think the secret of the dancing spider comes down to what they call dark DNA. Most animals have 5 or 10 different species. The dancing spider of Australia has more than 100 different species. And they dance and they make strange vibrations. We can have a listen now. So that's unusual. And scientists are trying to discover why there's so many different species. Let's find out more with Dr Joana Meier from Cambridge University, who is part of the team. Joanna, thank you for joining us. Just tell us all about the dancing spider, because it's the first time hearing about this beast.
Yeah, thanks very much for having me. Peacock spiders, that's how these dancing spiders are called. They live in Australia and they're really just amazing. If you're scared of spiders, don't worry. They're really, really tiny. They're like 2 to 8 millimeters. So on my little fingernail, I can actually fit 4 of them. So they're really, really tiny. But what's very special about them is that the males are very, very, very colorful. And so there's over 100 different species. And each species, the males have different combinations of colors and different patterns. And they display these colors when they dance to the female. So the female is small and brown and camouflaged, which means that the birds can't really see it. But the males, they are brightly colored and they dance to the female. And when they dance, they also lift 1 or up to 4 legs and they vibrate as well. And these vibrations are kind of like songs. And that's what we just heard before.
So I've seen some clips of these brilliant spiders, and they are dancing. They're kind of shuffling and shaking from side to side. From you studying them, are there like organised dances? Is it all a bit random, or have you figured out that they're doing the same kind of thing over and over again to try and impress a mate?
They're doing the same thing over and over again, just like you say, but it is very species specific. So one species will do lots of asymmetric side movements, and another species will do very symmetric movements and mostly shake the abdomen up and down. And so it's very species specific what kind of movements they do. But within a species, all the males make the same kind of movements. But some of them will dance more vigorously, more actively, and that will impress the female. And when they are particularly colorful, the females will like that as well.
And now this spider, it's got more than 100 different species. Why is that unusual? Why are you trying to find out why?
So what's unusual is how fast these species evolved. Usually it takes about 1 million years for a new species to evolve. But in these Australian jumping spiders, the peacock spiders, over 100 species evolved in, we don't know exactly yet, but probably like 2 million years. So it was very, very fast that one lineage split into many, many species. And we are interested in finding out why is it that sometimes species can evolve into many different species very quickly and adapt to new conditions very fast.
So experts think it's partly down to what they call dark DNA. This is a mysterious part of the genetic code, and you're looking into it. What are you studying? What do we know about dark DNA, and why might this mean there's been such a huge evolution of species?
Yeah, so one of the first discoveries we made is that they have very, very long genomes. And genome is basically the entire DNA that we have or that the spiders have. And the genome of the spiders, of these peacock spiders, is three times as long as that of us humans. So they have a lot of DNA. And most of that DNA is not genes which encode specific traits, but it is repeat-rich, kind of like just the same sequence over and over and over again. And we are currently trying to figure out what those different sequences do and how they are involved in generating this huge number of species so rapidly.
I know that it's quite early on in your studies of this. Any idea if the different genetic code isn't telling it to do something unique, if it's just the same repeated over and over and over and over, any idea why that might be happening?
Why we don't know yet, but how it could, for instance, lead to different species is that if one species has a lot of repeats in one particular chromosome, so in one particular part of its genome, and it tries to mate with another individual that doesn't have that, then that can create problems, because then in their shared offspring, it will be kind of like one chromosome is longer than the other one. So basically, they're not compatible genetically. And this could be one piece of the puzzle to explain how they produced so many species in such short amount of time.
And you're studying this. What are you doing to study it? What are you looking into? Is it just looking at genetic code on a computer? What's happening?
Yeah, we're basically reading out their genetic code. And that's really hard because, as I said, it's very repetitive and it's also very long. So we need to do a lot of DNA sequencing, which basically means doing pipetting in the lab and figuring out how this DNA looks like in each of the different species. And then we compare this DNA. So we compare the sequences between the species to see which parts of the DNA is expanded because of these repeats, or which genes are under selection, which might be important, for instance, for the color pattern differences, and how are the species related, because if they're very similar in this genetic sequence, that probably means that they're very closely related.
Well, it's been amazing trying to uncover the mystery of the Australian peacock dancing spider with you. Dr. Joana Meier, thank you for joining us.
Thanks very much.
Thank you to Joana for coming on the show, telling us all about those dancing spiders. Let's get to your questions, shall we? If you ever have anything sciencey that you want answered on the podcast about anything sciencey at all, make sure you leave it as a voice note for me on the free Fun Kids app. You can do that at funkidslive.com too. First question is a message from Anthony. Hey, Anthony, 8 years old. Thank you for listening. You want to know, why does copper wire glow when it gets hot? It's really simple, Anthony. When you put electricity through a copper wire, you are heating the metal up. You are moving energy into the wire. So that energy, the electricity, it excites the electrons that make it up, and they move about. And when they're moving about, they're wobbling, they are getting hot, and they are generating light. They give off visible light because there's so much energy there that it needs to get out, so it does it through light. It's called black body radiation. And all things that are hot give off a bit of light, but it's often too faint for us to see it. Only when things get really hot does that light become strong enough to see. It's because the energy needs to go somewhere, Anthony. Thank you for the question. Let's get on another one. This is from Harriet. What do you have, Harriet?
Hi, and I'm Harriet, and I'm 6 years old. My question is, what is the most dangerous food in the world?
Well, Harriet, thank you so much for your question. What is the most dangerous food in the world? I reckon this might be quite tricky because food can be dangerous in quite a lot of different ways to different species. Should we unpack it? Let's talk to Professor Elaine Holmes from Imperial College London, a professor of chemical biology. Elaine, thank you for joining us.
Hi, that was a really good question, Harriet. And as you say, it's one that can be answered in lots of different ways. So one of my favourite deadly foods is the pufferfish. This is a popular dish in Japan. It's called fugu, and it's so dangerous that the chefs have to have a license to prepare it. It's usually served very thinly sliced like sushi, and the thing that is dangerous in the pufferfish is tetrodotoxin. And when you eat the fish, the tetrodotoxin binds to your nerve cells and blocks essential signals between your brain and your body. So because this toxin in the fish causes people to have numbness and tingling, they feel a little bit lightheaded. Some people like to do this just for the thrill of it. But if you get the dose wrong, then you can actually die. And there's about 50 people die each year in Japan from eating this delicacy. And to give you an idea, tetrodotoxin is about 1,000 times more toxic than cyanide.
That is amazing. And I know about the pufferfish. What I do know is if you're a chef and you do have the license to be able to cook it, one way that you show that to people who might want to come to your restaurant outside is you kind of put a light inside the skin of the pufferfish and you hang it outside your restaurant like a lamp, which is amazing. Now, Elaine, why do these toxins exist in the wild, do we know? Do we have any idea why the pufferfish needs to be so deadly?
It sort of protects the pufferfish against its prey. If other animals know that it's poisonous, they're not going to eat it. And a lot of the toxins based in the liver and skin, so it will deter other animals that will have evolved not to eat the pufferfish. So
that's the pufferfish. Are there any other really dangerous foods that we know about?
Oh, there are lots. So another of my favourites is the ackee fruit. Now, the ackee fruit is fine if it's ripe, but if it's unripe and you eat it, then it has a toxin or a chemical in it called hyperglycin A. And this chemical binds to the mitochondria, or your energy producers in your cells. And it, put quite simply, it just stops our cells from working. We run out of energy. And the ackee fruit can cause an illness known as Jamaican vomiting sickness. You find it in the African countries, you find it in the Caribbean, and there's probably around about 20 deaths per country per year in some of the African countries. So again, one to watch. It's quite safe while it's ripe, but if you get it unripe, then it can be very dangerous.
Now, with almost any food, any of these deadly meals that you're telling us about, Elaine, if we cook them really, really well, does it tend to kill all the harmful toxic chemicals in there?
Certainly with something like the hyperglycin A, it will destroy the toxin if you cook it. But I think even when cooked, if you cook from raw, it's not a good idea to eat the ackee fruit. But for lots of foods, then cooking will break down some of the toxins.
Well, there we go. The most dangerous foods in the world. We've got a fruit and we've got a pufferfish, Harriet. I think that gets us started. So Elaine Holmes, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
In just a few days, we're doing a massive show in the Fun Kids Science Weekly live tour. We're playing in London. Now, we've done shows all summer across the UK, and now we're coming to the capital. If you've not seen it yet, I'd really love you to come along. There's a few tickets that you can get. It's everything that you love about this show, but live on stage. So we've got Deadly Beasts for our Dangerous Dan. We've got stuff from outer space. We hear about experiments that you can do at home. And you can ask geniuses your questions. So I'd love for you to come along. It's in London. We'll have selfies. We'll have high fives. You can even touch a meteorite. I'm bringing something from outer space. It's happening at the Bloomsbury Theatre on the 27th of September, which is this Saturday. And if you'd like to come along, you can find out more on the website. So grab a grown-up. You can get your ticket, funkidslive.com/tour. It's time for this week's Dangerous Dan, where we search out the most mean, weird, unique, strange and deadly things in the universe. This week, we're headed to South America to find the fascinating and rare Brazilian yellow scorpion. This creature is so yellow, it's almost see-through. It grows to around 7 centimetres long, which is quite small. It's kind of the size of the palm of your hand, probably not even that. Now, the thing with scorpions is normally the smaller they are, the more dangerous they can be. This one has a thick body with thin pincers, and it's got this strange stinging tail that curls upwards. It hangs over its body, always there, always threatening. It's got one of the most deadly stings in the world. It shoots out a powerful neurotoxin, which causes extreme pain and convulsions, and it can fill your lungs with liquid so that you choke. Now, here's what's amazing about this creature, the Brazilian yellow scorpion. Females can reproduce without males, which is unusual for animals. You do see it, but it's unusual. It's very rare for scorpions. So that means if the girls don't need the boys to reproduce, they can do it on their own. Colonies and population numbers can explode. And that, with such a deadly sting, means this devastating beast, the Brazilian yellow scorpion, goes straight onto our Dangerous Dan list. It's time for Battle of the Sciences, where we try to figure out the greatest science in the history of the universe. And I think you'll really like this one, because it's about some of the best beasts in the world and how we can keep them around and make sure there are more of them. We're chatting to Aaron Whitnell from Big Cat Sanctuary, all about conservation sciences. Aaron, you have a minute to tell us why conservation sciences is the best of them all. That minute starts in 3, 2, 1, go!
Wildlife conservation is the most important science in the world because we are all about protecting the natural world. And without the natural world, us humans wouldn't be able to exist. It's not just about protecting animals, it's also about protecting ecosystems that allow us to do things like breathe, for example. But of course, without wildlife populations around the world today, we simply wouldn't be able to exist because we rely on that wildlife for food, but on top of that, we also rely on them to ensure things like oxygen are actually able to still be around for us to breathe. So, for example, through simple things like food chains, there's a perfect balance that's kept throughout ecosystems around the world. Without that balance, then you can find that there will be huge ecosystem imbalances that can cause huge environmental disasters that again have big effects on us. So by us working to protect wildlife and working to protect ecosystems, not only are we taking care of the planet, but we're also taking care of ourselves.
Aaron, thank you so much. Here is why I would make a terrible conservation scientist. Because you've only got so much time in the day, you've only got so much money in the bank, yet there are so many animals that need our help. How on earth do you try and figure out where you should put your attention, what creatures you should kind of give more effort to save than others? How does that work?
So we work with numerous different other organizations around the world who are there to help basically paint a picture of what species are under serious threat, what species are doing well, And the same goes for ecosystems and also humans. So, for example, we do work in Madagascar. Madagascar is one of the most povertized nations in the world, which means that it's not only the wildlife that's under threat there, but it's also humans that are really struggling there as well. So we work with the organizations out there to not only protect the ecosystems and the lemurs, which is what Madagascar's famous for, as well as all the other different animals there. But on top of that, we also try to provide things like jobs, education, and other really important factors that allow countries to grow economically, but also give people a purpose, so that way they're not having to go and destroy wildlife and obviously sell it for bad reasons, so that effectively they can live good, happy lives.
And it sounds like such an amazing science to be part of, even though I would be quite pants at it. And I know that there'll be so many people listening who love creatures and want to help take care of them. What types of things should they be doing when they're young? Should they be studying? Should they be reading and looking into to maybe work with zoos and conservation when they're older?
Sure. So first of all, I would say, just to help kind of fall completely in love with animals, the best thing to do is find an accredited zoo, accredited sanctuary, and accredited aquarium. Go visit them, because they're the ones that not only are caring for numerous different threatened species, but on top of that as well are the big donators to conservation. So the zoo profession, for example, is the third largest donor to conservation globally. So by visiting those kinds of places, not only will you fall in love with numerous different species that you may have never even heard of before, and see all these weird and wonderful creatures that sometimes even I can't believe our planet is home to, but on top of that as well, you are directly funding the support of those animals in the wild as well, and the protection of those animals, and the research that goes into, protecting them and getting us a better understanding of those animals and those environments too. So that's a really simple one. On top of that as well, there's some really great wildlife documentaries out there that, again, will teach you all about wonderful behaviors that these animals show. So I'll probably say that's a starting point. And then from an education side of things, obviously biology when you're at early school is probably the easiest way to learn about wildlife. But as you get older, if it's something that you really want to do, then there's so many different courses that are designed for working with wildlife and giving people a real expertise, from wildlife conservation to zoology to animal care, for example, just being three. So there's so many different ways in which you can kind of get into it.
Now, I know, Aaron, that you and your family work across a few different places in the UK. Just tell us more about those sites and what's happening.
Sure. So we are a family charity. So we run two wildlife parks. So one is the Big Cat Sanctuary, which is in Kent, which pretty much says what it does on the tin, really. We rescue big cats from poor conditions. So, for example, we've just rescued 5 lions, African lions, from the war in Ukraine. But on top of that as well, we do also house lots of small cats, which, again, we've had to be part of rescues where we've had to take them on where people have not been taking care of them very well. So everything from Asian golden cats to fishing cats and servals and everything in between, which are some of the species that not many people have necessarily heard of. And then the other place that we look after is a place called Hertfordshire Zoo, and that's in Hertfordshire in the United Kingdom. We're a lot more focused on things like breeding programs, even though we still do breeding program work at the sanctuary. But we have everything from sun bears to big cats to penguins to gibbons and kind of everything in between at the zoo.
What's the trickiest creature to handle day to day? What gives you the most grief and fuss?
The sun bears can be a lot because they're just always on the go. So we've got a huge room that's just filled with effectively like loads of different enrichment toys for them, just because they're so active, to keep them mentally and both physically stimulated. And on top of that as well, we've designed a very awesome habitat for them. But yeah, you need to make sure you get that right as well, just to keep them nice and happy. So that's a really, really interesting species that we care for. They're a threatened species. So yeah, that's one example. And then I would say cat-wise, my big passion when it comes to cats is jaguars. I just think they're absolutely amazing. And I always kind of joke that even though lions and tigers get the spotlight, jaguars are almost like the true kings of the cat world, just because they're the best climbers, best swimmers, fastest of all the big cats, because cheetahs aren't a big cat, hardest bite strength. So again, like doing lots with them can also be challenging, but a lot of fun at the same time.
And a jaguars, they've got the most names as well. Is that right? Aren't they panthers and mountain lions too?
Oh, close. That's a puma. But you do find pumas in similar territories to jaguars. But pumas are also the most widespread of all the cats. So they actually go from the very bottom of South America all the way to the top of North America. And yeah, depending on where you are, they can have almost 50 different names.
Well, it's a good fight because we love the animals. Aaron Whitnell from Big Cat Sanctuary, thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thank you to Aaron for coming on the show, for letting us behind the scenes of the zoo and the Big Cat Sanctuary. And we can learn more about wildlife now with Marina Ventura. She is our climate genius, and we're learning all about the changing climate. Because us humans, we're not the only ones affected by it. Plants and animals are too. Habitats change, which affects the water and the food available, and can have a say in whether they survive at all. So let's find out with Marina Ventura and Mappy.
Marina Ventura's Climate Explorers.
Hi there, Marina Ventura here. I love finding out about the natural world, and that includes the Earth's climate. We know that weather can change from one day to the next, but climates can change too over the time span of years, centuries, or even longer. So I'm on a mission to fill MapApp with the latest climate information with the help of some awesome climate explorers. Come on then, let's go. We are lucky that most of us live in comfortable homes and have enough to eat. Just imagine if we didn't. What would we do? Maybe we'd move somewhere else, if we could. But what if we couldn't? Now, other than our pampered pets, animals don't live in houses, but they do have habitats. Places that are safe and comfortable for them to live in with enough sources of food to keep them going. As climates change, these habitats can change too. Isn't that right, Mappy?
It certainly is. Animals and plant life are affected by climate change just as much as humans can be. And whilst most species can cope and adapt with gradual changes, rapid changes and the loss of natural habitats can create challenges for wildlife.
Let's find out more from someone who studies a very interesting animal in a very beautiful place.
Hi, I'm Rose, and I'm a conservation scientist. I study animals and the food they eat, and that's something that can change as the climate changes. Changing climates can affect wildlife in lots of ways. Some animals, like frogs and newts, are very sensitive to temperature and may die if their homes become much warmer or colder. A changing climate may affect the vegetation that grows, and this might mean that there isn't enough for the animals to eat, or may mean that animals can't safely nest or build homes. Sometimes the animals might be able to migrate or move to a new habitat, but if not, animals can be short of food and may die out. I work on tropical islands and study the Aldabra giant tortoise, carefully looking at what they eat, so we can understand what we call food webs. What's eating what, or who's eating who.
But there must be a lot of tortoises to study. How on earth do you figure out what they've had for dinner?
It's the poo that tells us what the tortoises had to eat. We look at the plant's DNA found in the poo, and this tells us exactly which plants the tortoises have been eating. Food webs can give us information about the effect of climate change on animal populations and how they are changing too.
So, how has the change in climate affected the tortoises?
Well, the island where these tortoises came from originally is called the Aldabra Atoll. It's a place in the Indian Ocean that's at risk of being submerged because of rising sea levels. If this happens, these tortoises could die out. Luckily, some tortoises have been moved by scientists to other islands in the Indian Ocean where different types of tortoises have already become extinct. We're looking at what the tortoises eat in their new homes to see how their presence affects the food web.
Lucky tortoises having you on their side. Thanks, Rose. We share the world with millions of varieties of plants and animals, and all of them are affected by changes in the climate. And we might not think they affect us, but don't forget, humans are part of a food web too.
All this talk of food is making me hungry for an upload.
Ready, Mappy?
Load me up.
And that's it for this week's Fun Kids Science Weekly. Thank you so much for exploring the universe with me. We'll be back at the same time next week, wherever you've heard us today. You can get your tickets for our live show, funkidslive.com/tour. The next one is Saturday the 27th of September. in London at the Bloomsbury Theatre. I'd love to see you there. If you've got a question, make sure you leave it as a voice note for me on the free Fun Kids app and at funkidslive.com. You've got loads of brilliant podcast series. You heard Marina Ventura today. We've got tons more. Google, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your shows. And Fun Kids are our children's radio station from the UK. You can listen at funkidslive.com on the free Fun Kids app and wake up your smart speaker and ask it to play Fun Kids.